Once again, a very good morning to all of you here. Namo Buddhaya. Just now, the MC said that I was supposed to inspire you with my talk, but I'm not sure whether can I inspire you all. But I'm definitely very inspired by the crowd today. It's quite a huge turnout, and I really thank you for your time on a Sunday morning to have a chance for me to share what I have with all of you. Okay, today's talk is on concentration and wisdom. This particular sharing, I actually gave it during the Basic Buddhism course, Module 1. I gave it during the course on this part of the lecture. And some of them then requested for me to give the talk again on a Sunday morning. So here I am, do a repeated broadcast. And for those of you who are in Module 1, I'm so sorry. The content will be the same. But the delivery will be different because there's no humor, right? Everything is changing. So as much as possible, I'll try to give a different twist or a different delivery as much as I can. But the content, the slides are all quite the same, right? Okay, so this particular concentration and wisdom, you can find it in Dhammapada verse 372. And this is one of my favorite verse. And this is also one of the verse that Bhante Ji always recited during his meditation retreat. Every time the start of the day, he will always recite this verse before we start the retreat. And this verse goes like this. There's no concentration for one who lacks wisdom. There's no wisdom for one who lacks concentration. And one who has both concentration and wisdom is indeed close to Nibbana. So this is from verse Dhammapada 372. There's actually a story behind it. It's a commentarial story behind it. What happened is that Venerable Sona is one of the top disciples of the Buddha. He was giving a discourse to his mom and family. And then during the discourse, there are robbery in the mom's house. So a bunch of thieves was actually robbing the house. And then the maid, the maid came out to the mother and said that, your house is now being robbed. Please go back and take a look. But the mom was just sitting there listening to the son discourse. And the mom said, what is more important than the Dhamma? What is more important than the Dhamma? And when the thieves or robbers was robbing the house, and found out that all the family members, including the mom, is so calm and peaceful, then decided not to rob the house. Yeah. So next time, if somebody was to rob you, just remain calm and just tell them, take whatever you want. If it's not precious, yeah. Okay. So the thieves dropped the act and then decided to listen to the discourse by Venerable Sona. And when the Buddha knew about it, the Buddha actually appeared and recited a few verses to the thieves. And one of the verses is this. There's no concentration without wisdom, and there's no wisdom without concentration. And after this verse, according to commentary, most of the thieves got enlightened. So I'm not sure how many of you here got enlightened by this verse. I'm definitely not one of them. That's why I'm still here. Okay, so this is the background of this verse. I like it very much because it actually sums up the whole practice, and it actually gives a very good clarification of different schools of thought. That some schools think that you no need to do stillness meditation or concentration meditation, or there's some schools that think that panya is enough, wisdom is enough, or there's some schools say that wisdom concentration is important. But indeed, both are very important. You need to train your mind to be able to still, and then you need a certain insight to arise. And both of these two will actually help each other to sharpen the mind. Okay? By the way, this sharing I gave in Basic Business course was 2 hours. But I will try to condense today for about 1 hour. I try to, okay? Or else this actually is a 2 hours talk. Right? Okay, I just go through the Eightfold Path. I think you're all very familiar with the Eightfold Path. So in Eightfold Path, they are divided into 3 categories. They are the wisdom category, there are the conduct category, and there are the concentration category. I think all of you are very familiar with the Eightfold Path. So in the Panya, or in Sanskrit, it's called the Prajna category. We have the right view and right intention. And under the conduct, we have the right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And under the concentration or the Samadhi category, we have the right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Today, I'll cover only on the wisdom part and the concentration part, because morality is given. It's given. Morality is the basic foundation of this practice. And according to Panditji always said, you can find morality in a lot of religion. In most religion, they always teach you about morality, about restraint, about sense restraint. So it's a given thing. If you want to be a good human being, a good mankind, morality should be a given. But what's special about the Dhamma is the other two categories. It's the wisdom category and the Samadhi category. And these two are the crux of this Buddhist practice. Okay? So to sum up the practice, the path, this practice path, must start with the right view, which is the forerunner of the path. But this Eightfold Path, although we list it like the right view, right intention, and then right action and things like that, but it's not a step-by-step per se. What I mean to say that is that it's not like you must complete your right view and then complete your right intention and then followed by the other steps. It's supposed to be a wheel. All these 8 things, these Eightfold Paths, will all come together to help you in this practice. So what do we mean by right view? So it's a proper understanding of the Dhamma. Initially, it will be at a very conceptual level. Very conceptual level. It's all about knowledge and trying to understand what the knowledge is all about. Try to clarify your question about the knowledge, about the Dhamma. And then later on, when you have this knowledge with you, you begin to purify your conduct to keep your mind space clean. Right? Sister Sylvia always said that the whole crux of morality is really to help. It's a tool to help to keep the mind space clean. And then when the mind is a bit more clean, when the mind is a bit purer, then you're able to calm and still the mind. And when your mind is calm and still enough, you then can see, experience, and realize the Dhamma, or what I call insight. And when you realize the insight, it will actually motivate you to purify the mind further. So it's like a wheel. It keeps on turning and turning, and one factor supporting the other factor. So it's very important to know that this Eightfold Path is start with right view, but it's not a step-by-step per se. It's supposed to support one another in this particular path, right? So I mentioned the 8 components are supposed to be practicing together or practice together to support one another. It's like the wheel, the Dhamma wheel. There are 8 spokes. If one of the spokes is broken or is off, you find that the wheel is not very, very stable. You may get a punctured tire. So these 8 spokes supposed to be there and supposed to support the wheel. And the reason why it's a Dhamma wheel is that this wheel has to be in motion. It cannot be static. A static wheel is a useless wheel. It cannot bring you closer to Nibbana. A car that is static will not bring you closer to the destination. So the wheel has to be in motion, has to spin. And this spinning of the wheel, if spin correctly, not spin correctly, spin correctly will actually lead you towards a path of liberation. And spin in the correct path, not spin in the wrong path. Because if you spin the wrong path, instead of going to Orchard Road, you go to Woodland. And then you actually detour, and then I don't know where you're going. Yeah. So like what I say, the Dhamma wheel has to be spin and spin towards the path of liberation. Okay, in this part, I would like to talk about a bit about the Panya. What is Panya? What is wisdom? What is insight? To me, and according to a lot of scholars, Panya means intuitive wisdom. And wisdom is not about how smart you are or how much mundane knowledge you have. Let me just give you an analogy. How smart you are or the mundane knowledge that you have will lead to outer transformation. What do I mean? For example, in order for a nation to progress, you need smart people to govern the country so that the nation can progress. It's all about outer transformation, building things, inventing new stuff to make our life better, and to create new technology so that all our life seems to be better, right? But wisdom is about inner transformation. It's about knowing what to do to make sure that you feel happier, you feel more contented, and you feel more joyous. So wisdom is about instinctively knowing what is going on and what to do to help one to live with a peaceful and a very contented mind. So that's what wisdom is all about. It's not about having a lot of knowledge. There are many arahants during the Buddha's time. You can name them as no knowledge or they're not smart at all, but they have a lot of wisdom. And the wisdom is about leading their life to be more happy, to be more joyous, to be more contented. So that's a differentiator between how smart you are and what do I mean by wisdom in the Buddhist context. And it's also about appreciating, understanding, and realizing the true nature of phenomena. The amount of knowledge that you have may not lead you to understand the true nature of phenomena, but the wisdom, the insight that you have will enable you to understand the true nature of things. So that's what wisdom is all about, right? And once you have true wisdom, when you have the wisdom, it really leads to an inner transformation in you. You find yourself happier. You find yourself having more friends because friends will love to be with you because you're kinder, you're more gentle, and you can let things go easier. I mean, who like to be friends who are rude? Who like to be friends who are not kind? We are always drawn to people who have a very soft heart, who are very joyous, and who are always very contented. And there's always an attraction to it. Okay? And wisdom is also about knowing the essential from the non-essential. There's an example, the arrow simile in the suttas. Do you know the arrow simile? I think most of you know the arrow simile, but I just repeat for those who did not came across this simile. So there's once, I think it's a king that went to hunt, and then somebody shoot the arrow to the king was shot by an arrow. And instead of pulling out the arrow, instead of dressing the wound, the king go and ask, where does this arrow come from? What material is this arrow made of? In which direction, in which speed the arrow was being shot out? So this is non-essential. And when you have the wisdom, you'll be able to know what is essential to you and what is non-essential to you. What are things that can make you happier, contented, joyous, and what are things that don't make you contented, happy, and joyous. So this is how wisdom will help you in differentiating that. So panya in Buddhist teaching is about knowing the nature of the mind and how can we be free of the mind, habits, and desires. We all have a lot of habits, a lot of habitual tendency. And having the wisdom is about recognizing the habits that does not lead us to happiness. And it's also start with panya, and it ends with panya. What I meant here is it start with some conceptual understanding of the Dhamma. It must be. Because I think all of us here have been searching for quite some time, trying to find a teaching or trying to find a certain faith that's in sync with us. And the odds are, the likelihood is, Dhamma, somewhat you agree. You may not understand the whole big picture, But you somewhat agree that, okay, this path look quite all right. This teaching I can agree, although I may not understand. So it starts with some conceptual panya. It starts with some conceptual understanding or knowledge. And then at the end of the day, it also ends with panya. It ends with panya because what you know is now what you experience, or is now what you have gained insight. So we start with panya, and the end ends with panya. Okay, I'll talk a bit about the right view in the panya division. So I mentioned just now, right view is the forerunner of the entire path. It enables us to understand the starting point, the destination, and the successive landmark during the destination. That's why you need to have right view, right? Because if you engage this Buddhist practice without a proper foundation of right view, it can be very futile. It can be a waste of time. And that's what quoted in one of the suttas. It said that, bhikkhus, I do not see even a single thing that is blameworthy as wrong view. Wrong view is the worst of things that are blameworthy. And this one is in the Anguttara Nikaya. So when you first started off this path, this Buddhist practice, you must accumulate the right Dhamma. It's very important. Because if you have the wrong compass, if you have the wrong knowledge, if you have the wrong understanding, then you may find yourself going merry-go-round or going very way off, right? So right view is extremely important. And according to the Buddha, the right view is the understanding and the realization of the Four Noble Truths. You must first understand what is the Four Noble Truths. A very brief or even a conceptual understanding. That's good enough. And then from there, you put into practice, and then you realize the Four Noble Truths. And the Buddha said, no, what bhikkhu is the right view? Is the knowledge of suffering, knowledge of the origin of suffering, knowledge of the cessation of suffering, and knowing the way that lead to the cessation of suffering. And that's called right view. This verse is found in the Samyutta Nikaya 45.8. And like what I mentioned just now, firstly, it's to really conceptually understand and kind of accepted the Four Noble Truths. You may not accept fully initially because you do not understand it, but you have to kind of, first of all, be able to agree with it. You agree that, okay, something is speaking right here, so I agree with it. And then when you start to know it and agree with it, you develop a certain confidence in the path, a certain faith in the path that motivate you to practice, or at least try. Give it a try. And then as you practice, you'll be able to deepen your understanding, and the realization of the Four Noble Truths will shift your mind when you practice this path, right? And then when your mind shifts, when the attitude to life shifts, and when you change for the better, your faith and confidence actually increases, right? Because you are actually a much happier and much peaceful person. And then you will develop the path further again, right? So the crux here is at least have the right understanding of the Dhamma, keep an open mind, and then see how you are being transformed in your attitude towards life. I want to give an example of myself, but this example I've been using again and again and again. I think some of you here will get very bored by my example. It's my bak chor mee example. Yeah, I love to eat my bak chor mee. Really, I love it. Anytime I go to the store or I go to hawker center, I see bak chor mee, straight I will dash to the bak chor mee counter. Straight away one, okay? I used to love to eat 3 to 4 bowls of bak chor mee. It's not because I'm hungry, but I crave for the feeling of eating bak chor mee. Yeah, I really crave for the feeling of bak chor mee. But after coming into the path, I start to realize that the reason why I can eat 3 to 4 bowls of bak chor mee is not because I'm hungry, because I crave for the feeling of it. I love the feeling of eating the bak chor mee. And when I eat 3 to 4 bowls, you can imagine how disgusted I feel towards the bak chor mee. Really, after the 3rd bowl, I tell you, the bak chor mee don't know become what. Yeah, I don't know become what also. So I start to understand how the mind works. The mind works in the way that it craves for feelings, and not really craving for the object. I see how it transformed me. And right now, when I see bak chor mee, I still crave, I still cling, but I just eat 1 bowl today. Yeah, not 3 to 4 bowls. Because eating 3 to 4 bowls is clinging after the feeling, not the object of it. So I start to understand how the mind works, and I see how it actually transforms myself in a way, right? And it leads to me having a very new perspective of seeing things that lead to more contentment, more peace, and happiness. And it's true. It's true because the way that I live now, hopefully, is I try to not to keep so much things. Because I'm also a hoarder. You see my storeroom in my house is full until to the brim one. I'm sure all your storeroom in your house is more than 100% full. Whose storeroom in the house is 50% full? No one, right? All your storeroom are full of things because we all like to hoard things. And that's how the mind works. The mind always wants to cling to things, wants to store things, and always tell ourselves, it can be useful in a few years' time. Yeah, but in a few years' time, you find that you do not use all these things at all. And we cannot blame ourselves for that because it's a habit of the mind. The mind always is a habit to cling to things. It's a tendency to hold on to things. And it's a habit to actually want to keep things to ourselves. It's a fight and flight response that is being built on DNA over many, many millennium. The mind just wants to keep things to ourselves to be safe. To be safe. To be safe, then sorry. So that's how the mind works. And if you really understand how the mind works, then you'll be able to use wisdom to tackle this mind. Okay? So I'll just repeat the 4 Noble Truths. It's to experience the dukkha and discomfort. Remember, the Buddha mentioned about dukkha, the 8 types of dukkha, the 4 regards to the body, birth, old age, illness, and death, and 4 regards to the mind. Do you realize that? The 8 dukkha that the Buddha talked about, 4 to the body and 4 to the mind. Associate things that is unpleasant, disassociate things which is not pleasant, not getting what you want, and clinging to the 5 aggregates. And the second Noble Truth teaches us that the mind is often chasing. We often chase. For no what reason, we just love to chase from one thing to another thing, to another thing, and to another thing. And we never feel a sense of contentment and peace. Right? And in the 3rd Noble Truth, the Buddha mentioned there can be peace. There can be peace. There can be a relief of all this dukkha. It can be a relief. And in the 4th Noble Truth, the Buddha mentioned there's actually a formula, a practice to attain the liberation or akka, also known as the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay. Can I skip this slide because I see some taking pictures? Okay, I skip this slide, okay? Okay, next I go to the right intention. In Pali, it's called the Samma Sankappa. Basically, right intention to me is the attitude towards living. Attitude towards living in a wholesome way that helps in your spiritual practice. I often say something, what is not wrong may not be spiritually helpful. What is not wrong, may not be spiritually helpful. It's not wrong for me to sleep 13 hours a day. It's not wrong for me to eat 5 bowls of bak chor mee. Or it's not wrong for me to go shopping day in, day out. But all these things are actually not very spiritually helpful. They are not going to help you to solve the mental issues that you have, the mind problems that we have. So the right intention part is actually to cultivate a certain attitude towards living your life in a more wholesome way. And it helps to give the mind a certain framework. It's a framework to solve or resolve our habitual instinct. It gives you a certain framework, a certain guidelines, so that you're able to resolve this habitual instinct that we have. And it's also a preparation of the mind to practice the moral division of the Noble Eightfold Path. right? So what are our habitual instinct? Our habitual instinct, like what it says, hold on to things. We want to chase. We always act to our own interests. We disregard our surrounding and people around us. And in the worst scenario, we always act in a very harmful way to ourselves and other people. And like what I mentioned just now, this is really not our fault per se. It's how we are being built in the DNA to always fight when there's danger or to run away when we can't fight. So it's a fight and flight response that we have that's already built in our DNA. And because it's built in our DNA, it becomes a habitual tendency. When something happens, we'll fight or we'll flight. So this right intention, the Samma Sankappa, is actually to give us a certain reminder, a certain framework of attitude towards our life. And what is this right intention? Right? And this right intention is to cultivate a joyous and a beautiful mind of little wanting, renunciation, little ill will, and then non-cruelty. So in the right intention, there are three things. There are renunciation, little wanting, there are non-ill will, and non-cruelty. And remember, these three things must come together. You cannot pick and choose, say that today my attitude towards life is renunciation, but I can have ill will and cruelty. No. In order to practice right intention in the noble way, in the right way, these three things must come together. And you can observe yourself. Some people can have little wants, but they have a lot of ill will. They can be very cruel to people around them. Right? So if you practice wrongly, pick and choose, the path is not going to be very smooth. So in the right intention, these three must come together. Renunciation, as far as possible, have little wanting. I know it's a bit difficult sometimes to have little wanting, but just try. I'm also trying, seriously. My one thing is on my food. I love food. That's why I need to do a lot of exercise to cut down on my weight. Right? But as much as possible, I try from very, very little things around me, little one thing, and try to cultivate metta, non-ill will, and as far as possible, not to have any cruel thoughts in me, right? And what are the intention of all these things, right? Intention of renunciation is to curb excessive greed, to moderate our wanting, to counter the habits of chasing things, one thing after another, and to really put life into perspective, that one thing can't really resolve the dukkha in us. The reason why we want, because we want to escape from dukkha that we face. You can ask yourself, why are we chasing after things? A lot of time, it's because we want to avoid the numbness, the suffering in our mind. That's why we go and chase. But we are going the wrong direction, right? And what is the intention of non-ill will? Is to curb your ill will, agitation, to soften the mind and keep the mind space clean, and to keep the mind joyful and peaceful, right? I mean, you can ask yourself, when your mind is very peaceful, when your mind is very happy, when your mind is very joyous, do you all have ill will? Do you all scold people with a happy mind? No, right? You are very, very evil. No, right? You don't scold people with a mind full of ill will. You only scold people when your mind have a lot of ill will, right? So the intention of non-ill will is to really curb the agitation of the mind, to keep the mind a bit more spacious, joyous, and clean. And of course, the intention of non-cruelty is to fill the mind with friendliness, compassion, and to fill the heart with a lot of forgiveness, not holding, and a lot of gratitude. And more important thing is to be beneficial to oneself and to other people, right? And with this joyous mind, you would then naturally want to keep your morality. Morality become a very second nature to you because you're happy, you're very joyous, your mind is very, very bright. And then to keep to precepts, to keep to morality becomes second nature to you because you don't want to harm people, and you know by not harming people, it's also not harming yourself. And you are a field of merits to the world. The Buddha always said that one who keeps precepts are a field of merits to the world. what do the Buddha mean by this? If you are somebody who have no ill will, no cruelty, people would be drawn to you. People would naturally be drawn to you because you're friendly. You have a lot of kindness. People will just want to be close to you because there's a positive energy coming out from you. So you're actually a field of merits to the world. Okay? Next, I will talk about the Samadhi division on the concentration part. In the Eightfold Path, the Samadhi division is actually the training of the mind, the training of this mind that we have, right? And the purpose is to develop a calm and a very quiet mind that is effortlessly in the present, to realize and to reflect on the Dhamma, and most importantly, to gain insight. And when one experiences the insight that the Buddha mentioned, and the Buddha said, one will then learn to let go. And this letting go is letting go with wisdom. Not let go, it's letting go gently with wisdom and not pushing away. And when one insight is realized, one's confidence in the Dhamma will actually grow. And it gives one motivation to practice further. And this training of the mind is not a one-off thing. It's going to be again and again and again, supported by right view, right intention, and supported by the Samadhi division, the concentration part, right? And you will see yourself transform, looking at things in a much happier way. There's no longer want to hold on to things. But before that, the mind really needs to be trained, to be still, and to be mindful, to look at the very nature of this mind. Okay? So in the Samadhi division, we have the right effort. So what is this effort all about? It's not effort per se, but there's a specific purpose of this effort. Remember in the morality division, we talk about the restraining, and that restraint is on the action and the behavior. But in the Samadhi division, in the effort, we are trying to keep the mind pure. So there are 4 right efforts that the Buddha advocates: the preventing arising of unwholesome thoughts, to let go of unwholesome thoughts, to encourage thoughts that are wholesome, and to continue wholesome thoughts that has already arisen. And why do we have to do all these things? It's very difficult. I agree with you. The right effort part on the Samadhi division is very difficult, especially in the daily life. But it's important because how you live your daily life will actually affect your sitting, your contemplation, your meditation. How you behave in your daily life will actually overlap into your practice, right? So if you're purer, if you're able to be mindful in catching all the habits in your mind, in your daily life, you find that your sitting is much more successful, much more joyous, because there's not much disturbance in your mind. So the reason is to make the mind space clean and pure, and to generate mind states that are conducive to stillness, which is concentration, and sharpness, that is the mindfulness of the mind, right? And how we do that is to have a very deliberate effort to watch the mind in a daily life. I know it's very difficult, because for me it's very difficult. But when I remember it, I will go and watch it. I'll go and watch what's my mind states, and to make sure that my mind states are more wholesome than unwholesome. So it's a day-to-day dealing. And then it's basically it's a calibration of the mind, to know how to calibrate the mind, so that this habitual mind, this habitual tendency will drop off eventually. And then the mind can be a bit more peaceful and joyous. Right? Mindfulness is a very, very big word. I was sharing with the class yesterday that this mindfulness thing is really a big thing, right? Let me just give you a very circular definition on mindfulness, right? It's by John Kabat-Zinn, the founder of MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. It's a deliberate or a conscious effort to be in the present without any judgment. That's all. That is a circular definition of mindfulness. But what we're talking here is about right mindfulness. It's about the mindfulness that the Buddha gave. Yes, it's a deliberate, conscious effort to be in the present, observing, recognizing, and remember any object or phenomena according to the Dhamma without any unwholesome roots. Right? So what do I mean by this? Is that particular mindfulness that we supposed to be trained is to really observe the phenomena, to recognize the phenomena, to decode it according to the Dhamma. And you only can do that when your mind is sharp enough, when you train your mind to know what to look out for, to understand what to look out for. And the Buddha actually gave the 4 types of mindfulness that we can do. So what are the 4? A bhikkhu can abide contemplating the body, the feeling, the mind object, or what I know as Dhamma, as body, feeling, mind object, ardent, fully aware, and mindful. Right? So this is the tool of the mindfulness, to able to catch, recognize the phenomena that's according to Dhamma. And what is according to the Dhamma? The Dhamma that the Buddha mentioned here is about the 3 characteristics. It's about impermanent, it's about dukkha, and it's about anatta, about non-self. So this is what the Buddha mentioned about right mindfulness. It's not about any mindfulness that you all see at the outside world, because I can mindfully go and kill people, right? I can mindfully scold people. Every word that I use, I mean it. I mean every word that I scold. So I can mindfully do all these things. But is it according to the Dhamma? Is it according to what the Buddha is prescribing? So we need to know what's the right mindfulness. And Panditji have a very good talk on mindfulness. It's a 4 minutes YouTube talk that was out last week. Some people ask what is mindfulness? And Panditji said this: mindfulness in according to the Dhamma. Right? And mindfulness have 2 parts. To me, you have 2 parts, right? Part 1 is to learn from the right teachers and the right teachings. In Pali, it's called the Prato Gohosa. That means to listen to a wise one, or to listen to other people. To listen and to read attentively, have a good understanding, clear any doubts, and commit that to the memory. So it's about learning and education. So that's one part of mindfulness: to learn, to be able to understand, and to commit to memory, right? And the second part about the mindfulness is what I call the right practice and the right insights. In Pali, it's called the Yoniso Manasikara. Basically, is knowing the features, able to recognize the features of it, and then reflect on the features that you see and experience, and decode it. A lot of time, when you do not have the wisdom, or when you do not have adequate knowledge, you may be able to see, but you may not be able to decode. Why? Because you do not have sufficient knowledge to decode it. So that's where the wisdom comes about. You need to have the right wisdom, the insights or the knowledge, so that when you see certain features or phenomena in your mind, you straight away can recognize it and decode it, right? And it's also about attainment of experiential insight versus theoretical knowledge. Or this is what I call OJT, on the job training. So this is the second part of mindfulness, right? And what are the results? If you are able to be mindful, equipped with the right knowledge, with the right Dhamma, what you get is the Yatha Bhuta Jnana Darsana, which is to be able to see things as they are. See the mind, body as they are. What is the nature? What is the phenomena? And what is the true nature of all these things? And because you are able to see it, because you're able to experience it, there's a growth of panya and wisdom that leads to an inner transformation. Leads to an inner transformation. And this is what I call the 3-phase learning. Pariyati, learning, Patipati, practice, and Pativedha, the realization. Okay, next I'll go to the concentration part. Somebody asked me what's the difference between mindfulness and concentration. It's two different tools of the mind that you need to equip with. I always have an analogy. Mindfulness, it's like a scientist looking through a microscope. The microscope is like concentration. You're able to see things in a minute form in a very clear way. And mindfulness is like the scientist behind the microscope. You're able to decode what you see. You'll be able to understand what you see. And these two must come together. You have the microscope, you don't have the scientist behind it, it's useless. Or you have the scientist, but without the apparatus, without the microscope, you also can't see much. So that's the difference between mindfulness and concentration. And these two have to come together. One cannot go without another. Because if one goes without another, you find that your insight can be a bit not so perfect, can be a bit not so whole. Okay? So what is concentration or stillness? Basically, the state of mind that is conducive for insights to arise. And what are the insights that we need to arise? Is to be able to know impermanent, able to understand dukkha, and able to decondition the mind to know that things are anatta, that's non-self. So it's a reasonable state of stillness. There is absence of the 5 hindrances. If you're a meditator, you should know what are the 5 hindrances, which is covetousness, ill will, restlessness, sloth and torpor and doubt. Right? And the different state of stillness are denoted by what the Buddha mentioned as jhanas. Right? And these jhanas that we practice, it must be accompanied by the right mindfulness, right? And this mind is continuously placed onto the object of the meditation to train the stillness. Okay? If you're a meditator, you will know what I'm trying to say. It's about stillness. It's about the mind calming down. It's about the mind being able to not to be too caught up with things. And when the mind starts to calm down, when the mind starts to be a bit more still, then you can see the subtle nature of the mind equipped with the mindfulness. Okay? So I just list out the jhanas that the Buddha mentioned. So in the first jhana, what more important is the vitakka, vichara, rapture, and pleasure. Basically, just a different state of stillness. Don't think jhana as something that's very esoteric or out of the world, or something that is it's not easy, but it's not that difficult to practice. It's basically just about how still your mind can go to, right? So it's basically about applied thought. Applied thought means putting your attention to the object of meditation and sustain it. And then because your mind is very, very still, you tend to feel happy and joyous, both in body and mind. Okay? Again, if you have practiced meditation before, you know what I meant here. But if you don't understand it, it's okay. Just read it and then go for Brother Beng Hok class. He'll bring you through all the meditation technique. Okay? So that's first jhana. And let's go deeper and deeper into the stillness of the mind. You find the mind is clearer and clearer. So in the second jhana, there's no applied and sustained thought, but there's rapture and pleasure. There's stillness in you. Then in the third jhana is equanimity. That means your mind is already very still, very mindful, and fully aware. Remember, in practicing stillness concentration or stillness meditation, there must be presence of mindfulness. You must know what you're doing. You must aware what you're doing. You must be aware of the mind states. And of course, in the fourth jhana, in the very, very still mind, this mind is now purified based on mindfulness. There's a purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. Okay? This is just different level of stillness of the mind. Some people may ask, is it important or is it necessary to do jhana practice? My reflection is, my take is, after reading suttas, if you are going for the big throne, the big trophy of arahantship, you must at least attain the first stage of stillness, and that's the first jhana. But other than that, if you want to be a happier person, if you want to just gain some insight, a relative still mind is good enough. This is what I think. Some people can share with me with other observation in the suttas. Okay? So if you want to know more about mindfulness practice, about concentration, these are 2 books I highly recommend. It's Mindfulness in Plain English and Beyond Mindfulness in Plain English by Panditji. I think there's some free distribution book outside. So if you're interested to know about how mindfulness is being developed, how stillness is being developed, these are 2 books that I highly recommend. Okay? So to conclude my sharing today is that concentration and wisdom is to be practiced together, and they're supposed to help to support one another. Okay? And important thing is to see the Noble Eightfold Path as a whole journey, as a whole formula, as not as individual parts. That means you don't pick and choose. Pick and choose and say that I want to practice 7-fold path or 6-fold path. Because you may not get arahant, you may get telok. Very, very telok. Okay? So if you really want to go for the big trophy, look at the Eightfold Path and practice it as a whole package. And there must be a proper understanding of the Dhamma at the conceptual level in the initial stage of the practice. And then because you believe in it, because you kind of agree with the practice, you start to purify the mind to keep it clean. And because the mind is relatively clean, you find yourself being able to calm and still the mind. And when your mind is calm and still enough, you're able to see, experience, and realize the insight. Right? And once you realize the insight, then you can let go. It's all about letting go. Letting go with wisdom, and the mind is then at peace and contented. And the mind will not hold, and the mind will just abide in the Dhamma with no craving. Okay? So let me just give you a last verse by the Buddha to Subhadha in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. It said, now Subhadha, in this Dhamma and discipline, the Noble Eightfold Path is found, and in it will found ecstatic of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or the 4th grade. Basically, the Sotapan all the way to Arahantship. But if this one, the monk would like to perfection, the world will not be lack of Arahants. It means to say that this whole Noble Eightfold Path is important. And it is the crux of the Buddhist teaching and practice. Okay? So with this, I end my sharing today. I go a bit fast because I try to condense a 2-hour sharing to the timing today. So hope that it's inspiring to you all, although I think it's very average to me today. Yeah, but I hope it can be very inspiring to you. But I'm really inspired by all your turnout today. So thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
I can take some questions if need. Yeah.
So anyone have questions can raise your hand. We'll pass you the mic. Anyone? Any questions from the audience? This side, that side. Because today a lot of content, so any part that you want to clarify more, you want to ask more deeper for the part of samadhi or the wisdom.
If they're shy, I'll still be around.
Otherwise, he will ask us questions later. Yeah. Yeah?
Hi, good afternoon, Brother Chye. There was a slide that you mentioned, mindfulness is awareness without judgment. Yeah. When we have, let's say if we practice mindfulness, or would you call this mindfulness if we are aware that we have judgmental thoughts? Because we are aware and therefore we realize that these thoughts are actually our judgment based on our condition. So would you consider that mindfulness? Because your slide mentioned that mindfulness is without judgment.
Mindfulness without judgment means that to see the things as it is without our preconceived idea or perception or our habits. Yeah. Example, I was sharing the other class. I was sharing with yesterday class that sometimes when we see certain things or certain photos of the certain photos of the past, we find that how have we changed so much? We are in total shock. But we know ourselves that if we lifted off that judgment, we know that people were changed. We know ourselves that people changed. We know that things actually it's not permanent. And we lifted off the judgment that we have or the preconceived habits that we have. I'm not sure whether that answers your question.
So let's say if I'm aware of my thoughts.
Yes.
And I am able to evaluate these thoughts to see whether they are actually my judgmental thoughts. Would that be considered mindfulness?
If you're able to see thoughts as it is without too much input of thinking into it, then there's no judgment. But the odds are we are always caught up with thoughts and bring more thoughts into the thinking, right? And the crux of mindfulness practice, according to Buddha, is to see thoughts as just thoughts and see that there's a rising of thoughts and there can also be a cessation of thoughts. And thoughts are very much conditioned. And to see ourselves caught up with thoughts because it's a habitual tendency. If we're able to be mindful and see thoughts as just thoughts arising and there's cessation, and when there's a cessation of any thinking or excessive thinking, we can be much contented and happier.
So for example, when you were craving for the bak chor mee, right? And you recognize it as craving. So that would be considered mindfulness.
I see craving as it is. That is craving, that's all. I don't see, why I got so much craving? So bad, I could bash myself up. That's excessive thinking already. But I see that there's craving, and after that, I try to recognize it, and I try to seize it. And there are many methods to seize a craving. You can chop it off, you can understand the roots of it later on, or you can understand how this craving will lead me to not be so contented at all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more other questions from the audience?
Hi, morning. Well, everyday life, I think it's very normal that we're being judged, and we also judge people around us every day. Now, how do you handle when somebody judges you negatively? Thank you.
Some people can judge us negatively once, right? Once. But the problem is we judge ourselves negatively many, many times. Many, many times. We repeated the judgment that people gave to us. So that's a problem. Well, we can look at it this way. If people give you a feedback or judge you negatively, then what I always do is I reflect on it and see whether is it true. If it's true, I try to improve it. If it's not true, I just let it go. I try to use judgment, even positive or negative, as something that I can learn from it, but not something that I want to relieve it. What I mean by relieving it is relieving that particular negative judgment again, and again, and playing in our head. So, like what I said just now, some people can judge you once, make you suffer, but we ourselves may also suffer by thinking about it many, many, many times. This is how I deal with myself, because I'm also a lay people. I also somebody that working as well. So we have a lot of comments out there, a lot of negative comments, or be it negative or be it positive, be not so good, be it good. Yes, sometimes I caught up with all this judgment. I'm caught up with all these comments, but I come to realize that a lot of time, some people just give you one bad comment, but I give myself 1,000 bad comments by thinking about it over and over and over again. Yep.
Any more other questions? I got a question myself. Maybe you can share a bit more your own story in terms of your practice for in your workplace, right? How do you practice the right effort, mindfulness, and the concentration in the workspace?
I'm a very routine person. Routine person means that I always set myself a certain time to watch my mind. You know, I'm working in a financial institution, and in financial institution, things move very, very fast. But I always tell myself, lunch break is my me time. It's my me time. I'm very selfish one. Lunch break, I don't go out with people. I try as possible not go out with people. Or as much as possible, I try to give myself a certain period of time, which is my me time, and I just sit there and watch my thoughts. I may not go into meditation, but I'm training my mindfulness tool, the mindfulness of the mind, knowing what is going on in my mind. Notice how I train myself during my day. And of course, at night, if I'm not tired, I'll pull out 1 or 2 easy sutta to read. But if I cannot sleep, I will pull out a very difficult sutta. Because if I read the sutta, I will fall asleep. I mean, it's true. So I'll try to pull out some suttas to read and try to keep myself always in the Dhamma domain. And what do we mean by Dhamma domain? Is to be able to keep the mind space clean, observe the mind habits, and to accumulate knowledge that the Buddha have left behind. So this is what I normally do. Yeah. And of course, by doing sharing like this, it actually helped me to consolidate my learning. So next time, if you want to learn the Dhamma, please come and share more. It really will help you to consolidate your learning and to able to structure all your learning into a more formal way. Yeah.
Question? We have still some time for 1 or 2 questions if you have. If not, next questions. What do you think is the difficulty that you have so far, the most difficult part in the practice of the mind itself?
I mentioned the right effort. The effort in watching the mind day in, day out, every single moment. It's very difficult. Seriously, it's very difficult. And to me, it's one of the most difficult. To me, I have little problem. I'll say I'll have little problem with my sitting because I love to sit. You know, when I get home, I can just sit in my room for some time. But I find what more difficult to me is watching the mind day in, day out. Because we're always caught up with things. We always have this habit of chasing after things. So to me, one of the most difficult practice is about watching the mind, the right effort part. Yeah. And sometimes I can be wrong because what is unwholesome, I deem it as wholesome. It's true, right? What is, like what I mentioned just now, what is not wrong may not be spiritually helpful, like sleeping, eating a lot, sleep a lot, or lazing around at times. It's not wrong. It's not wrong to laze around, but it's not spiritually helpful because your mind is in a very dull mood, D-U-L-L, dull mood. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone last questions? If not, let's end today's session. Let's all say sadhu 3 times for the sharing. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.